Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you so much for being here with us. Students, our wonderful students, colleagues, alumni, and colleagues also from other departments and other institutions. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Luca, for organizing this meta event and for bringing Lucrezia on campus today. And of course, thank you so much, Lucrezia, for being with us at Bryn Mawr College. Luca Zipoli is an assistant professor in the Transnational Italian Studies, whose main area of specialization is the literary culture of late medieval and early modern Italy in a broadly interdisciplinary perspective, privileging the intersections of fields such as history, visual arts, comparative literature, transmedia studies, book history, and gender studies. I think everybody in this room knows Luca Zipoli, but I like also to add that he's working on a book project titled Around the Magnificent, Poetry, Magic, and Religion in Early Modern Florence. So an officially big thank you to Luca for everything you are doing for our department, singular. And and now Lucrezia Oddone is an online creator, instructor of Italian as a second language, and author of the hybrid test book for self-study titled Videogrammatica della lingua italiana, che abbiamo appunto lì. She teaches Italian language and culture at the start-up Giulia School by the Treccani Foundation, which is the most prestigious Italian cultural institute in Rome. I looked at it this morning, Lucrezia, and it's such a truly interaction way of teaching Italian online. So I truly enjoyed while I was preparing for this conversation today. And the Treccani Foundation, for those of you who is not familiar, is not only the most prestigious Italian cultural institute in Rome, but the Encyclopedia Treccani, the great encyclopedia, is regarded as one of the great encyclopedias, being international in scope alongside the Encyclopedia Britannica. And the course that Lucrezia is teaching there is Come si pronuncia. Lucrezia holds a BA in Applied Linguistic Communication from the University of Trieste and an MA in Modern Languages for International Communication from the University of Roma Tre. She also obtained from the University of Siena the Italian National Certification in Second Language Acquisition. In 2011, during her undergraduate studies, she inaugurated the YouTube channel Learn Italian with Lucrezia, which as today is followed by a community of over 700,000 learners, 700,000, and counts more than 50 million views, 50 milioni. So those numbers, Lucrezia, are truly impressive. Luca Zipoli also has participated in some of those videos.
And there was a decline in views.
And I really enjoyed actually when you are together for example, I told you a few days ago, I really enjoyed the last videos when you met and you were making plan to go to have a pizza. And then at the end of the video, there is a short section called the Paparazzi, where Luca and Lucrezia are showing everything that went wrong during the shooting of that video. Over the years, this channel has become a point of reference for anyone who wants to learn and study Italian language, culture, and lifestyle in an informal setting, and made Lucrezia a world-renowned female leader in the field of second language acquisition. And this leader is today with us. So what is the place today? I'm very much looking forward to the conversation, and just to give you a little bit more of a context, what is the place for humanities and the language in our digital area? What are the challenges and opportunities that contemporary technologies offer to the fields of culture and language instruction? Which innovative pathways open up for teaching and learning Italian through the integration of new media? So Lucrezia and Luca, these are the questions that we will be dealing with today during our conversation. Lucrezia will discuss women's participation in modern technologies, as well as the possibility offered to humanities and Romance languages by digital tools, from social media to artificial intelligence. So the title of the conversation today is Humanities and the Metaverse, a conversation with content creator Lucrezia Oddone and our own Luca Zipoli. An aperitivo Italian style and a book signing will follow from 6 to 7 in the Quita room upstairs. And the event is made possible by the digital Bryn Mawr grant program. Is organized by the Transnational Italian Studies program department, but it's also co-sponsored by Comparative Literature, Romance Languages, Praxis, Film Studies, and the Gender and Sexuality Studies program. So grazie mille e possiamo iniziare.
Grazie.
Thank you so much, Roberta, for this very generous introduction, and welcome everyone to this event. Welcome students, alumni, colleagues, friends of our department staff from Bryn Mawr College. And before starting this conversation, I want to deeply thank Bryn Mawr College more generally, but in particular the digital Bryn Mawr grant program, because really that was an asset in making this event possible, to have Lucrezia with us, as well as all the other entities and departments that Roberta recalled that helped us organizing this event. And of course, thank you, Lucrezia. Grazie mille for accepting my invitation.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here. And thank you, Roberta, for the wonderful introduction. I wondered for a second, is she talking about me? I don't know. And thank you, Luca, for organizing all of this. And thank you all for taking the time to come here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I wanted to say that it will be very much a conversation, just a dynamic, very similar to the conversations that Lucrezia and I happen to have in our videos. So I will just, ask you some questions, and then we will leave the time for a Q&A before the reception. And so the occasion for being here is the publication of this book, this textbook by Lucrezia, Videogrammatica della lingua italiana, which is also available back there for purchase, and it will be later on. Thank you for during the reception. But we will get to the book later on, because I really would like to touch upon the topics that Roberta mentioned. mentioned. So some more general topics, such as what does it mean to teach language and culture online, and what are the possibilities and challenges of social media and digital platforms for this. So I really would like to start from the beginning. So as Roberta mentioned, your channel, you inaugurated your channel during your undergraduate studies. So something that maybe might be inspiring for our students here. So I think 12 years ago, I'm not sure you were thinking that you would end up talking about that at Bryn Mawr College 12 years ago. So really I would like to start by asking you how this project started and why. I mean, what were your expectations or your objectives at the very beginning?
So I started my channel at the end of 2011, and I was studying translation studies in Trieste, and it was not something I did with an objective in mind. So it was pretty much a hobby, because I was spending a lot of time on YouTube. I was and I am an avid content consumer on YouTube. And I followed other content creators. And at the time, it was not so popular to start a channel. So there were very few content creators. And it was not something you could talk about, because, I mean, it was not so popular as it is today. And so I found myself a lot on YouTube. And we also used a lot of videos, because studying translation, we had to practice simultaneous translation a lot. So we used a lot of interviews, speeches in other languages to practice that. And I also came across many videos. I studied French and English, so I came across a lot of people teaching French and English, and I was really interested in idioms, which were very useful for translation. And then I kind of realized that it was not the same for Italian. So all that I could find were videos about explaining hand gestures. And so I mean, it was pretty sad, actually, because I mean, with everything that you could talk about, Italian language is an infinite topic to talk about. Choosing hand gestures is I think it's quite superficial. So I thought, why don't I just try? I mean, let's start with the pronunciation of the Italian alphabet and see how it goes. Actually, my very first video was Christmas vocabulary. So, because it was around that time, at the end of the year. But I just thought, let's do this. It's like a nice hobby. So not even for a second, I thought that I would be here today with you, or that my channel, that my channel would grow so much as it did over the years.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it all started as a need. I mean, you felt that it was needed to do something to share Italian culture and languages to an international audience without.
And I also wanted to do something like in my free time, something that I was passionate about.
Right. So creativity. And I think it's interesting because nowadays that YouTube and social media are so common, maybe sometimes we may forget that the objectives is not visibility or just fame, but more the need to express something, to be creative.
Yeah, that's very true. Too often today, maybe when I talk to people, I hear some people say, "Oh, but I want to become a content creator. I want to become an influencer." because I want to be known. I mean, yes, of course, that will come with time, but that cannot be the aim to do something. You have to have something to tell, something to talk about. And for example, even if we think about monetization, for example, of what you love, it's like, think about the fact that, for example, I did this without earning anything for most of those 12 years. So it seems like something that you always say, oh, but you have to be passionate about what you do. But it's true at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do you think that since it all started ironically when at a time that you were studying foreign languages and translation, so would you think that you were very much exposed to foreign languages, foreign cultures? Do you think that was influential in prompting you or suggesting you the idea to do that on the other side, so to make your language, your own native language and culture, visible to the international audience? And how do you did you think? When did you realize that actually you were changing your career path, if that makes sense?
Yes, I think being exposed to languages, professors at university that were really passionate about what they were teaching, played a role in changing my career path. I really wanted to become a translator and eventually an interpreter. But then during my studies, I found out that I don't get along with anxiety, unfortunately. So being an interpreter was not really for me. So that realization maybe came at the right time. There was a French teacher, a translation teacher, whom I looked up to very much. She was my favorite. And I thought, if I ever end up being a teacher, I would really love to be like her, because she was so attentive, and she always listened to us students. She was really caring. She was really calm. And so, I mean, that might be why I became a teacher then.
Right. So speaking of the importance of models, but to combine that with creativity. I mean, you had a professor that had been influential and important to you, but at the same time, you felt that you needed to express yourself in your own way, and you find your way during the process through YouTube. So I think it's interesting that coming from the university setting, a very formal, especially in Italy, a very formal setting, you felt the need to do something in your spare time, but that eventually, overlapped with what you were doing and the professor that you were interacting with.
Yes. It was pretty much a creative outlet, because I went to the school for translators and interpreters, and it was really stressful because we were not a lot of students. So there was this pressure to go work at the European Union Congress, and I'm better than you, and all those things. So making videos, editing videos was a source of creative relief in a way also, but always keeping my main thing, languages.
Yeah. And I wanted to get back to something that you said about how YouTube looked like at the time you started. I was struck by the fact that you said that most of the videos were Italian hand gestures, because I think that when when you want to talk about a culture, it's a difficult task. I mean, it's very easy to fall into stereotypes, to reinforce social expectations. So I think my question is, how do you avoid that? I mean, how do you interpret your role as someone who is portraying and conveying Italian culture, whatever that is, to the audience? What are the challenges and that you see, and maybe your objectives, your ideas about that?
As far as Italian culture is concerned, I try not to generalize too much, because I always try to speak from the point of view of my experience. I'm from Rome. I was born and raised in Rome. So my Italian culture is really linked to the Roman scene in a way. And I can also talk about my, for example, my origins from Marche, the other region, Italian region, because my grandparents were from there. So I only try to speak from my experience. And I make it very clear, for example, in my vlogs, when I go visit other places that I've never been to, that it's like something new to discover about Italy for me as well. So I don't say, oh, we do this in Rome, or I do this in Rome, so that's what Italian culture is, because that's not the case. Mm-hmm. As for language, I teach the authentic, real language that is spoken every day, and that links us all as Italians. So I would say that's not my point of view. That's Italian language. Yeah,
and that's interesting, because it's not easy to add complexity in a medium that you don't really control, because you don't control the audience that is taking advantage of your product. So I think it's very interesting that you try not to essentialize or universalize what you say about daily lifestyle in Italy, but trying to offer it as an example of whatever Italian
what
is.
you might find in Italy.
Yeah. So really, it seems to me like more more like an invitation to further continued exploration. Because if someone happens to be on your channel, of course it might be by chance, by just random, but most of the times they are interested in Italian culture, Italian language, and it would be easy to just reinforce stereotypes and expectations. I mean, everyone, approaches something with prejudice, with,
Yeah, and unfortunately, there are many content creators that reinforce those stereotypes. And because I think it's easier, because sometimes we think that, it's what people that don't know us want to know, want from us. But when we dive deep into the world of Italian as a second language, we really realize that students do not want that, do not want what's on the surface. They really want to go deep and really understand and get to know the culture and the language.
Yeah, and I think my question is, what did you learn about Italy, Italian culture, or maybe we could say cultures?
Cultures of Italy.
Cultures of Italy, while working and studying and researching for your videos. Is it? I think my question is, what did you find are the most current misconceptions of Italy abroad, and what are
also from within?
Yeah.
Yeah, so from abroad, since, for example, in North America, it's pretty common to think that Tuscany is the whole of Italy, or that Sicily is the whole of Italy. But it's not the case. But because there was like predominantly immigration from that areas, we could say the same about the south of America, where they got to know mainly the culture from the north of Italy. So it depends. But I said from within as well, because the meanest, is it a word in English? The meanest comments I get are from fellow Italians that do not appreciate, they do not appreciate what I do because they don't understand the world we are in. So they don't know anything about Italian as a second language. So they think, oh, but why would someone learn Italian? What's the need? Is it useful for? Because there's, an intrinsic habit to think less of ourselves. But yeah, so I'm trying to explain. It takes a lot of time and it's tiring, and you always get the same comments all over again. But then I think, okay, they will get the benefit of what I do, but I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing this for my students. So
yeah, it's interesting. So it seems like the international audience seems to be more excited about the complexity or open to the complexity of cultures in Italy more than the Italians themselves.
Yes, because Italians tend to accept anything. Like, for example, one thing that really I find really annoying is, for example, when on the news there's a famous American celebrity coming to Italy, for example, and they are caught on in an interview saying, "Oh, ciao, grazie," and everyone's so excited about it, and I'm not, because I know that it's just two words. Right. Thank you for coming, but I know there are students who use the periodo ipotetico, you know what I mean? That's what we should celebrate, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, because as well as the cultures, even Italian language is so complex, so rich. It has such a long history. So, it is so varied and multifaceted. So this actually, is a nice transition towards the question that I have about language, because as we know, as we discovered, in your language, you talk in your YouTube channel, you talk about Italian cultures in Italy, Italian lifestyle, but you have a lot of videos of language instruction, and it's interesting because if it is it's easy in a way to show the complexity or to make the complexity of Italian culture interesting and fascinating. It's more difficult with the complexity of language. In other words, the Italian language has principles, norms, rules that you must know, in order to be fluent in the language. So I think my question is quite broad. How do you deal with that? What is your teaching philosophy? How do you find yourself teaching the complexity of the language, which most of the time is not fascinating, but many times is intimidating for learners? And maybe what are the differences that you see with other content creators?
So I think grammar plays an extremely important role in learning a language, Italian especially. And sometimes, it's difficult to talk about grammar on YouTube because people want to be entertained on YouTube, and grammar is not very entertaining at times. But
not for everyone.
Not for everyone. Yes, I know. There are people who enjoy grammar. Trust me. But I think it's very important for students to understand it and use it, because grammar is a tool that lets students be independent speakers. So knowing how the language works, students can express themselves in the realist way possible to themselves, because they know how to build a sentence, and they don't have to rely on what they heard from someone else. So that's the key part about teaching and studying grammar, I think.
Right, which is interesting because many, digital platforms, I think, do the opposite. It's just more you repeat what you heard, what you read, and eventually you will be fluent. They really see themselves in opposition to the classroom setting of a traditional quote-unquote course, saying this is a different method. Whereas I have the feeling that yours is very similar to, to the rules, to the principles that someone would learn in a class, more than this, a method of just repeating passively what you heard through a video, through an app.
Yeah, my content is a mix of things. So you have grammar, you have vocabulary, you have vlogs, so language in real life, and everything gives context to what I talk about. So you cannot choose grammar only or conversation only. You have to have both. It's like a mix of everything that then leads student to getting like around knowledge, like of everything. And sometimes I feel there's this battle against grammar on YouTube specifically, because maybe it's easier to say that something is not difficult because you want to attract more people to maybe your content, and some creators think that if they say, oh, it's easy, you don't have to study grammar, they will retain more viewers, because easier things are the most popular things sometimes. But then I have proof, I have some comments of students telling me that then they reached the point where they really they needed to understand why a sentence was built like that. And that's grammar.
Right.
Yeah. And then you can have a list of vocabulary, a list of set phrases, but how do you put them together when you speak? You have to have a structure.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, your main objective is for students to be independent creator of the language, to be creative with the language. And the only way you can do that is when you have a grasp, well-grounded and rooted grasp of the structure that allows you to form phrases.
Yes, and I think it's also important to give tools to students to be, as I said, independent speakers, and then also to not necessarily use those elements in conversation, but maybe only to be able to understand conversations. So you have the tools, you use it whenever you need them. And, yeah. Yeah.
And, and this leads me to another question. So, the different, situations that students may find themselves to use the language. So, I think my question is, what is, I mean, do you have any sense of the impacts that your work, that your channel had on your students, in your community of learners? I mean, have you ever received any feedback, any proof about what are the reasons they follow the channel, and what was it useful for in their in their aims, in their objectives in life?
Yes, I do not, like, on a daily basis, I just focus on what I like, my work, and I don't take the time to think about things. But then, and it's a very solitary job, so I'm always by myself, and sometimes I don't think there are students. I don't know, it's an irrational thing. It's because I'm alone, I record videos, but then the views count, it's numbers, so it distances myself from the people watching. But sometimes, actually quite often, I receive very long messages from students telling me about their lives and what they used Italian for, and how my channel was useful to them. And it's amazing, really, to see. I told you I was going to cry. I'm very emotional. No, but when people say, oh, but thanks to your videos, I can talk to my grandma, for example, or I can bring my mom to the doctor.
Yeah.
How can you compare that to like having millions of views? That message alone, it's rewarded me for this 12 years of working. Basically.
So thank you for your work.
No, I didn't want to, but I didn't want to cry.
Yeah. Where are your, this is just a curiosity, where are your learners from? I mean, do you have any statistics where you're...
Yeah, so the YouTube channel has analytics that I can check, and the first country on the list is Italy. So that gives us a very cool insight on the fact that foreigners coming to Italy are studying Italian, coming to Italy for various reasons. And then the second place is USA. Yeah, and then I think there's Brazil in third place, place, and then Germany and UK is the top 5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's fascinating to have Italy in the first. Like, you wouldn't think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this gets back to the practical reasons to do that. I mean, are people from an international context, foreigners living in Italy, wanting to be integrated within
exactly. Coming to work, coming to live, coming to study. And the purpose of Italian learning has changed over the years. Mm-hmm. Like a few years ago, the main reasons were maybe family, to talk with mm-hmm. family, to reconcile with someone's origins. But nowadays is very frequent to have people learn Italian for instrumental reasons, which we only associate, like, we as Italians, we associate this with English. Well, mm-hmm. we have to learn English as a tool for work.
Right.
Now, Italian is becoming that as well, of course, on a smaller scale, but I mean, it's fascinating to see how things change over time.
Yeah, and we also have proofs of that, because this is a little bit anecdotal, but it's very difficult to hang out with the Lucrezia in Rome, just walking in the downtown, because we get to be stopped by many international workers, so just saying, "Are you really the one?" But I agree with you. It's really,
sometimes I hear voices in my head. And Lucrezia, is someone calling me?
Yeah, and And I would like to dwell a little bit more on how to teach language on YouTube. So I think my question is how, because like you said, I mean, your principal aim is along with the culture and lifestyle, but really grammar, a focus on grammar as a structures to really empower students and learner to be agent in this process. But at the end of the day, YouTube is a platform for your leisure time, for entertainment. So I think my question is, how do you make grammar accessible, pleasant for learners? And how do you reconcile the accuracy, the importance of grammar and of linguistic structures with the entertainment that students might want to find on YouTube?
So in my grammar videos, I always try to search for the right words to say something or to explain what might be a difficult topic. So the choice of words for explanation, then the use of, for example, text on screen, a lot of examples. Maybe sometimes I also include short clips from movies or TV shows where they use that grammar element so that I can show that what I'm talking about, it's really used in real life. And then as for the entertainment part, I try to vary my content a lot. So if on a Wednesday I publish a grammar video, then next time it will be a vlog, which is way more relaxed, way more frivolous in a way. And then I try to spice it up a little bit. So grammar, vocabulary, listening exercises, vlogs, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because this flexibility, this malleability of the content is allowed by the platform that you chose, which is digital, open, mixable, intermediate. So I think maybe also the medium really is a source of inspiration to just to innovate in. Because as we said, I mean, grammar is almost the same any time. I mean, passato prossimo will not change in a short time period. Sorry, students. But the point is the way to teach it and to make it more easily to be understood and to be used can vary. And I think it's the platform that, of course, even the classroom setting, of course, is a place for innovation. But I think the internet, the online platforms, really help you or.
Yes, and I get inspiration for my grammar videos from the most random things on the internet. Really, when I just go on social media or YouTube itself and I just watch something that is not related to language learning or language learning at all, and it will spark something. So, it's really useful.
Yeah, and staying on that, on the teaching philosophy, teaching style that you have, I wanted to ask you, what do you find online, on YouTube, online more generally, that you don't find in a language classroom, in a in-present, synchronous setting? What are the possibilities, opportunities that you find there, that you personally find useful and really essential to improve the learning experience for students? Since you also have experience in a more quote-unquote traditional in-present setting, I think I would ask you, what do you find online that you you don't find in
So from my point of view as a teacher.
Yeah.
Well,
or just as the language experience, both for students.
Okay, so for students, it's a way to get like access to authentic language. Not just my videos, but language videos in general. They can really listen to, experience authentic language, even if it's just for 10 minutes. But I mean, it's useful. Then they can consume the content at any time. There's not a fixed schedule. There's not a fixed time. It's really accessible in terms of time and place. So that's from the student's point of view. And they maybe can also use videos to do research for university or for school, for example. From my point of view, I think it's fun to be able to make videos for anyone, really. Anyone who's interested in learning Italian can access the videos and start from there. That's fun, I think. I don't know who's watching, but maybe I think it's useful also for people who cannot access formal settings as this one, for example, and it's there for them to access, and I think it's useful. Yeah, it's important, I think.
And gets back to the responsibility of creating content, because once again, online your audience, as you said, is so varied. Is really everyone. So any age, any background, any financial background. The good thing of online platforms is also that they are free, zero cost platforms. They come really all over the world. So I can see how you feel yourself inspired by the fact that you don't know the audience you are addressing, but exactly for this reason you feel this responsibility, both in terms of language, to be accurate, to provide an accurate explanations of the Italian language, and in terms of culture, a realistic and non-stereotypical portraits of your of the culture you belong to.
Yeah, I try.
So this is very exciting, I must say, for someone who just collaborate with a content creator, but is really more at ease in a classroom setting. But what are the less positive aspects of, if you don't mind, of being online? I mean, do you struggle with in being online? I mean, in choosing this setting, this learning environment, and not a more another one.
Well, sometimes when you are exposed and a lot of people, thousands of people watch your videos, you are exposed to any type of comment that do not, and some of them do not relate to the content of the video at all. So that's kind of frustrating, especially on a bad day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's unacceptable to give and receive online hate. But sometimes when I talk about this, like with people I've talked to that maybe are not really into the world of social media, tend to minimize and say, oh, but it was your choice to put yourself out there. Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand it's part of the game. But for example, we walk on the street. We are exposed to other people, and that doesn't give them the right to throw things at us. I think there's not the full realization that what happens online is extremely linked to what happens in the real world. Mm-hmm. And if you're not in it, it's kind of hard to understand. Like the consequences, because actions have consequences and comments are actions.
And I wonder if there is also gender dynamics at play in this less positive or really problematic situations that you experience. So I think I would ask you: do you agree with that? I mean, how is it for you to be a female content creator, a woman YouTuber online? I mean, do you think that does that play a role in the reactions that you also the negative reactions that you receive from your wide audience?
Yeah, sometimes it does. I think for example, I feel sometimes with some comments that there's an expectation of me to be aesthetically pleasing in the video, so to be presentable in the sense of putting makeup on or having my hair styled in a certain way. And sometimes, for example, when I wear the same t-shirt that I really like in a lot of videos, I get comments saying, "Oh, but you're always dressed like that. Why don't you change your t-shirts?" Or, for example, "Your hair is messy. Why don't you brush it?" Because I have it in a ponytail, for example. And it might seem like nothing, but I mean, why do you care? If I have a ponytail or if I'm wearing a sweatshirt, if I want to put makeup on, because I do makeup on in my videos, but that's because I want to do that, because that day I want to put makeup on, I want to dress nice. So yeah, because they stop at the physical appearance, and I feel like they don't listen to what I have to say. So I've put guidelines in the comments, but no one is reading them apparently. Just saying that if you want to comment, just please try to stay on the topic of the video, because that's what we're discussing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if they would do that with a male content creator. I mean, because it seems that in your case there is this assumption that you're not only supposed to be accurate and reliable, because it's education, so you must be truthful, reliable source of information, but there is also this assumption that you must be pleasant and aesthetically.
I have to put something else on the table. So not only what I know, my experience, my professionalism, but also that physical aspect, let's say.
Right, which is really what is against your the mission of your project, because as you said at the very beginning, your project, your channel is not about you as as a person looking for visibility and fame, but it's more about the content. So as you said, I mean, you can decide what you wear, whether to have or not makeup, because I mean, your interest is on the content, is on conveying that the content. So
sometimes I also get comments about some people trying to control how I say things, how I explain things. For example, one thing that annoys me a little bit is when I read, "Oh, you forgot to say this." Well, I didn't really forget. I prepared the lesson. So I decided what to say, and most importantly, what not to say, in the context of the lesson. So no, I'm not forgetting anything. Or another comment I get sometimes is, "Oh, but I don't like how you said that. You should have said this." What's the point? The video is already published. I'm not going to like put it down, take it down to change how I say things.
Yeah.
So.
And online, the platforms online are free, accessible, so that means you can follow it or not. I mean, if you don't like
but then the thing that amazes me the most is that my videos are not controversial at all. Like, I explain verbs, pronouns, I explain passato prossimo, imperfetto, so it's yeah.
And so, as I promised at the very beginning, I wanted to, get to the book. So your last project, which is interesting because after 12 years of really experiencing new media, digital platforms, you
came out with a book.
You came out with a book, which is lovely. I mean, we all love books, and but it's interesting. I mean, how was that? How was for you to work on a, once again, I don't like
like a traditional mean.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. It was intense because I didn't know what to do. It was a learning curve. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot during I spent 1 year working on the book. But it's a new thing in the market of books for Italian grammar as a second language, because I also had to put something very familiar to me, which are videos. Mm-hmm. So, as you can read in the title, Videogrammatica. So this book relies a lot on video lessons, and each chapter is linked to a video lesson of the topic. So I think it's great for self-study, because if you want to use the book, you can watch the video lesson and then study the chapter and the exercises, and it has solutions at the end. Or you can use the videos to review topics. So, and videos are very easily accessible. There are QR codes in the books, so it's really, really easy. And I think is, I don't know how to say this, but it's the proof of what I've worked on for so many years, and it's a bit traditional, as it's me speaking about grammar on YouTube, but also it includes the videos, which are the most modern thing about what I do.
So you really took advantage of all the many years of experimentations that you had online. And I think it's interesting that you then tried to bring that, all that expertise, all that history of, success and failures, maybe videos that, you realize were not, so useful or did not have a good turnaround, and you really took advantage of that while you're resorting to a more traditional medium like the book, which is really now a hybrid textbook.
Yes, it is, and it has it's kind of complete in a way that you have the video, and then you have both written language and spoken language. So it's complete in that way.
Yeah, and the hearing component.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Lucrezia. I have so many questions that I would like to ask you, but I think I will stop here. And we have time for questions from the audience. So I really encourage, students.
So just thank you so much for coming to speak to us.
Thank
It was
you.
really interesting. I was interested about your initial formation with this translation and translation studies, and curious as to the difficulties of teaching your native language, something that you didn't perhaps learn in school in the way that you're teaching it, whereas like these other languages that you learned in translation studies, you taught you learned how that would be taught. So is it difficult at times to teach things that perhaps come naturally to you, since it is your native language, and how do you approach that?
Thank you for your question. Yes, it is difficult at times. I think something that I forgot to mention, and which I find fun, is that I started the YouTube channel, and then I realized that that could be something I could do for a living, and because it was growing so much. So then I decided to get the certification for teaching Italian as a second language, and that gave me really a base to start building upon. And then it's trial and error. I try out things, methods, and see if they work or not. It's really that simple, actually, because I have a lot to learn still. But I think YouTube gives me the space, allows me to have a space where I can experiment my teaching methods. And of course, I'm very happy to have students helping me on the way. Yeah, because I get a lot of feedback, positive feedback from students, saying that maybe, this could work better if you edit the video in a different way, or if you put some explanations at the end as well. So it's a shared experience in a way. Yeah. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for coming, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us. My question was about, as you've been doing this for over a decade now, have you noticed any changes, or have you felt any pressure to change the style or the content of your videos, especially as longer form videos on YouTube become less popular and shorter form videos on platforms besides YouTube become more popular?
Thank you so much for your question. That's an excellent point. I'm struggling so much with shorter form content because it's not me. It's difficult to reduce a very complex explanation to 60 seconds. So what I've done is I've started out to try the shorter form content with vocabulary content mainly. So to say, what's that called in Italian? I mean, I don't know if that's useful, but in my experience, there's not enough time to say things, to contextualize things, to give context to language explanations. So what I've decided to do is to answer one question in each reel, for example. So today's question is this, and I'll just focus on that one question. So that's been working quite well for me because it doesn't really change too much the way that I work on longer form videos. But yes, that's a challenge. Also with the attention span that is reducing a lot. But I have good news. There are a lot of creators coming back to YouTube after having tried TikTok, Instagram, that really need the space and time to talk again. So I think that's pretty positive. And there's an online discourse about the dangers of the short form content. Yeah. I don't think they work for language learning. I mean, they can be really instrumental in a way that you just need that word. Right. That's fantastic. but to really get a sense of what you're studying, of the language, I don't think they're that useful. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so for a lot of us, the COVID-19 pandemic was like a turning point and sort of made us rethink how we did a lot of things in our work. And so how did that make you rethink how you did some of the things in your videos?
Well, what do you mean specifically?
Like, did you find like having more time at home made you rethink how you did things, or did you find that maybe new users came in that new listeners that normally weren't listening to your videos or watching them maybe came in and potentially that had some influence on how you did things going forward?
Yeah, thank you for your question. I don't think it has too much. When there was the pandemic, we were on lockdown. I started to maybe implement a lot of live streams, live lessons. That was useful at the time. So that maybe changed my way of doing things a little bit. But I think live streams on a daily basis was too much. But that served me in that moment and at that time. Now I'm not doing them anymore. So, but that gave me maybe the chance to experiment with a different type of content on YouTube. But that didn't really change, like the general way of doing things, maybe. Yeah. Thank you.
Grazie mille, Lucrezia. I think it's beautiful. Like, I can feel your passion and the way your account blossomed. Like, that's really wonderful. My question is a little different from anything that was talked about, but what are your thoughts on like a platform like Duolingo that I feel like so many people use? I used to use it. But do you feel like for a brand new learner, should that be the first thing they go to? Or do you think videos or even just sitting down with like a textbook, like is Duolingo really beneficial?
Thank you for your question. And it was really, I appreciate your words very much. Grazie. I think it can be fun to use it. I don't hate it, but I think it's a nice and fun way to approach a new language. But I don't think that can be the only tool you use. Mm-hmm. So in the mix of things that a student can use, of course, there's space for Duolingo as well. But the thing is that you just learn a lot of vocabulary. Yes. And I'm told a lot of sentences that are really weird sometimes. Yes. So, like to talk about the authenticity and real use of the language, maybe just do it for a few months and then like put it aside. But yeah. I mean, it can be fun for like when you just want to practice some vocabulary on the bus, for example. Yeah.
Grazie.
Grazie a te.
Hi, thank you so very much for everything you said. It was very inspiring and interesting. One of the things that struck me is when you talked about the fact that when you make those videos, you're teaching to people you do not see, you do not get any feedback from your learners. And, you know, one of the things that we have the privilege of having when we're in a classroom is that we get something back and we can adapt the level of teaching to the level of the student. One thing that I have noticed on many language learning videos online, not for Italian because that's not one of my languages, so I don't know how it goes, but it's that many of those videos, a little bit like Duolingo actually, never go beyond a certain level. Right. So they're mainly targeted to people who are starting in the language. And, for us at higher levels, we find ourselves kind of stuck in a dichotomy where the videos we can use are either very simple or very complicated. And I was wondering if this is something you take into account in the content that you create. If over the years, not only the style of making videos have changed, but also like the level of teaching that you give, or if that's something that's just not possible with this medium.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I've thought about it a lot of time, like also maybe starting to do videos in like a series, going from the basic things to more advanced. But what I find myself doing the most is reading comments, because I do get feedback, but it's afterwards, like after I've done the lesson in a way. So I try to take into account questions and doubts from comments, and then I try to think about what to talk next. But it's tricky because sometimes you have a lot of people requesting a topic, then you do a video on that topic and no one watches it. Yeah. So it's kind of like it's not that easy to decide what to talk about next. But yeah, I agree. There are a lot of videos targeted towards beginners and intermediate. But that's, I think, because there are way more beginners than advanced students. But I mean, it really depends on the audience of the channel. So I've always done maybe intermediate level videos, sometimes also beginner, but it really depends on the audience that watches your video, I would say. So it differs from channel to channel.
Yeah, because I guess another privilege we have in the classroom is that we can force people to listen to us, right? Yes. They have to watch the content.
Yes, exactly. So I can ask to subscribe and watch the video, but it's not always the case. But yeah, thank you.
I actually need to go, but I had a question, but I'm fearing that I'm going to lose my train. So. Okay, I have a question.
Take the microphone.
I think that it's okay. Thank you so much. I'm not an expert. I came here as an outsider, so I was also learning a lot, like every student here. My question is, I think anthropologically, so my question does not concern languages or the way you teach language. It concerns more. I know that you were mentioning analytics at some point during your one of the answers. And I know that you cannot split down the demographics in those analytics, but I was wondering.
I do.
You do? Yeah. Fantastic, even better.
It's very generic though, but.
Okay. But well, my demographics is actually a little bit more specific. So I was wondering, have you ever considered to, for example, start like a spin-off channel, like a spin-off YouTube channel, or what you do to teach Italian to like immigrants coming into the country? So easier level, faster learning curve, because these people, they don't have access to colleges, let alone like other institutions. And as Luca was saying, YouTube is free and it's accessible to everyone. And these people have smartphones are way more common than they were 10 years ago in the world. So these people are abundantly relying on their smartphones. And you have the ability to teach Italian to these immigrants coming into our country. And I was wondering whether you have considered to do that.
No, I haven't considered doing a separate channel for that, because from the feedback I receive, a lot of comments are from immigrants. Right. Like the comments I was referring to when Luca asked me about the impact of people learning the language were actually coming from immigrants, like saying, bringing my mother to the doctor, I can understand what happens. Or finding a job. So I wouldn't do a separate thing because that would be like separating things. I mean, it's just all students are there on one place. I wouldn't like the idea too much that to do something separate just for immigrants.
Right.
I mean, we are all together on the channel that exists already.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's actually very, very interesting.
Thank you.
I'm gonna leave.
Thank you, Lucrezia. And can I propose you a play role? I am
I'm not sure.
I am an American freshman student of Bryn Mawr College. Why in 2024 I should learn Italian?
Well, it depends on who you are. Like, it depends on your background, on what you're aspiring to. You can just learn Italian because you think it's fun. There are so many reasons why someone would start learning Italian. I don't know. It depends on the person. Yeah. Help me out.
Students, help Lucrezia, please.
Other questions?
Thank you. It was really an honor to have you here and to hear you speak about your experience.
You're too kind. Thank you so much.
I'm so nervous because I've been watching your videos for so long. Ever since I was like 11 years old, learning Italian for the first time. So it's like my first time meeting a celebrity like this. But I'll try to get through my question. This is kind of related, but I studied for like 2 months in Perugia at the University for Foreigners, and it was really interesting because I was the only native English speaker in my class, and so we used Italian like outside of class as an international language, kind of like English would normally be in other situations. That was really eye-opening for me because I think Italian kind of has a different conception perhaps than other Romance languages, definitely Spanish, maybe even French, in that it's not really a global language. And I think like hearing you speak about the analytics and the demographics of your channel, and even at Bryn Mawr, our department is called Transnational Italian Studies. I've been able to kind of get over that idea about Italian. I was wondering if you had any thoughts about, based on your own unique experience, how Italian as a language kind of functions on a global level or as a global language.
Yes, I'm discovering it as I go on with my work. So it was a surprise for me as well. When I started, I had no idea Italian would be so loved and used around the world. Like, for example, if you just think about the opera world, for example, it's really fascinating. And I have access to it just because I decided to step into this world. So it's extremely fascinating. And I think that it's going to change more in the course of the next years. It's going to become more and more a language for interaction around the world. Yes, because there are so many people of Italian origins around the world. So that, I think, plays also a role in what you were saying about being a transnational tool of communication. And we are proof of that today here. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Grazie mille.
Grazie a te. Non mi far piangere.
So I started learning Italian with self-study, and it was like a quarantine kind of hobby. And I really wanted to travel there and just learn more about Italy. So I've been watching your videos for a few years now, which has been like so cool to meet you in person.
Grazie.
I actually watched some of your videos with Luca in them before I even knew Luca, which is so funny because then I realized after the fact that when I came back to an old video, I was like, that's my professor, which was so cool.
Surprise!
So, yeah, he told me about this event, and so I was super excited to come. I was just, I had kind of studied a lot of grammar on my own, and so whenever I was looking for your videos, I was looking for a lot of conversation, like casual conversation to try to get out of that grammar world. And so I first started looking at your vlogs, and some of those, and I'm really into Rome, so like your Roman vlogs were just so cool. So I was wondering, like, what are your favorite kinds of vlogs to make, and like what makes you like the happiest to share, like about like Rome and your life there, or like traveling?
Thank you for your question. Vlogs are without doubt the type of video that I'm most relaxed about. So when I really want to do something fun for the channel, but for me as well, I just plan itineraries around Rome and to look for things that maybe are lesser known about the city. And that's sometimes it's a discovery for me as well. So I do it for the viewers, but I also do it for my own pleasure of discovering things. So that's I think what I enjoy the most, because it gives me the opportunity to go places that, believe it or not, I've never been to in Rome. So that's the most fun part about, doing vlogs and daily life in general. Even if it's at the supermarket, I really enjoy it. Yeah. Even though I was told off once in the supermarket because I couldn't film. I was filming, this is a passata di pomodoro. And there was someone from security, which is weird because we don't have securities in supermarkets. But that one supermarket I went to had security. You cannot do that. And I mean, I was kind of scared ever since to vlog in a supermarket again. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoy going out and about, walking around the city, just because I spend a lot of time sitting at my laptop. So vlogs give me an excuse to go outside and just explore and have fun and walk and just enjoy Rome.
Figo, grazie.
Grazie a te.
Well, if there are no more questions, I would just thank Lucrezia one more time with a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming here, for accepting our invitation. And now, we're moving to the Quita Woodward room for a reception. There are food and beverages for everyone. The book will be available for purchase, and there will be the possibility to further discuss with Lucrezia. One last thing that I would like to say is once again to acknowledge the support of Bryn Mawr College as an institution, but more particularly the Digital Bryn Mawr program. But I would also like to thank, and I forgot at the very beginning, Italian consulate in Philadelphia. There are two representatives here. So thank you so much for your support. Lucrezia just said how important it is to establish a community in which no one is excluded, but everyone supports the other one. So thank you to the Consulate General, even though she's not here, but to the General Consulate of Italy in Philadelphia for your support. So let's go having the reception. Grazie. Hai conosciuto Sì, upstairs.